Hello everyone, welcome back. Now for some reason the collision isn't working. For that, I believe I know why. It is because, let's go to our humanoid enemy. Let's get the main weapon collision, and let's set collision mesh. We can actually, since this is an important one, we can okay. Now let's get the weapon mesh and plug that in as the mesh component. Okay, and another reason why it wouldn't work would be, let's go to notifies, the collision trace ANS. This one relies on the weapon. If we do not want to rely on the weapon, then we can blueprint interfaces. Let's go to combat BPI, and let's create a new function, and we'll call it activate collision, and then deactivate collision. And we'll add these to a category collision. Okay, we're going to need a collision part as well. The collision part. Same for deactivate collision. Okay, now let's go to master AI, event activate collision, and event deactivate collision. Okay, and you can get our main weapon collision component. It's called activate collision. We'll get this version of activate collision and deactivate collision. Call the one from the component. There we go. Let's go to the player character. Let's go event activate collision and event deactivate collision. Let's get the combat component. Let's get main weapon and check is valid. If it is valid, then we can activate collision. Okay. And same thing for deactivate collision. If it is valid, then we deactivate collision. We do not want to call it from the main weapon component, and we do not want to call the message. We want to call the version from the base weapon. And that is for both of these. Okay, there we go. Now compile and save. And now let's go back to the collision trace ANS. Let's delete all of this. And then it's called deactivate collision message. And plug that in here. And then on notify begin, we'll delete all of this and call activate collision. Okay, there we go. Compile and save. And now this should work for both AI and player. So we can go to the humanoid enemy. So let's go ahead and try it out. See if the enemy can hit the player. Still not working. Okay, let's go to the main weapon collision. Let's see if it's even working at all. So for duration. Okay, yeah, it's working and it's hitting the player. So that's good, and the player can still damage the enemy. That's good. So since it's doing that, it probably has something to do with this. So let's just force this to be true, and let's see if it works now. Still not working. Okay, looking at this, I realized what we've done. We've copied and pasted this from the main weapon. We forgot to delete get owner and get instigator. So event instigator in this case will be, let's get controller, plug that in here, and we can plug this back up. That should be part of it. And another issue would be we need to give this AI some damage. So let's add damage, and we'll make the damage max value will be, I don't know, 1,000. Base value will be 25. 1,000 might be a little bit high for the base value. We could make that something like 300. And so let's see if this works. Okay, there we go. That works, and the player character is now taking damage. And we should be able to die. There we go. And after the character's dead, the AI goes back to his patrol. So everything's working pretty well. So, though you may have noticed the camera glitches that we have. So whenever we get close, we have some camera glitches. We will fix that soon. We're actually going to have another video where we make improvements to our systems. So in that video, we will fix this issue here with the camera. Okay, so let's make the AI drop his weapon. So in order to do that, let's go to actors, base weapon. Now let's just copy the code that we have here. We'll just copy all this and add this to the humanoid AI. And let's get the weapon mesh. We can add both of those here. Okay, and now let's add event death. Event perform death. We'll add, call it parent function. And then we will run simulate weapon physics. Okay, now let's add toggle combat. So let's add a node to perform an action. Perform action. And this one will be action tag enter combat. Okay, and the state tag will be general action state. Okay, let's add a decorator, a Blackboard decorator. So since this is enter combat, we need to check, let's actually add a value here. Let's add a new key, up top boolean. This will be B combat enabled. Okay, go ahead and save. Okay, now let's go to our, let's actually close out some of this stuff before we do anything more. Just close everything out there to the right. Let's open up the BP underscore AI controller. Let's go to the event graph, and here on event possess, let's get the master AI. Let's get the combat component. And here let's bind event to on combat toggled. And then we can create an event and create a matching event on combat toggled. Let's plug that in here. And we can move this up here. Actually, we can just delete that and plug that in here like this. Get the Blackboard. Now let's set value as bool. And for the key name, let's make literal name. Let's go back to our Blackboard, and let's copy this name exactly and add that here. So whenever it updates in the combat component, it will update it in the Blackboard. Okay. And actually, let's run the behavior tree after we set this. Okay, let's compile and save. And now let's go back to the behavior tree. Let's add another condition here. We'll add a decorator, Blackboard. Okay, so the observer reports for this one will be both. And the Blackboard key will be target. The key query will be is set. The second one will be combat enabled. We want to check is not set. And let's call this one enter combat. Now let's copy this and paste it. And this will be exit combat. Okay, search for exit combat. Okay. We need to check, is target not set? And is combat enabled? Is set. There we go. We can create a comment, toggle combat. We need to add an animation to our humanoid AI, toggle combat. So in the class defaults, we should have one already. Okay, here we are, enter combat. I think it's called draw. Yeah. And this one is called disarm. Okay, but we are also going to have another issue. The issue that we are going to have is this one also requires the main weapon. So again, let's go to the blueprints, interfaces. Let's open up the combat VPI. Let's create a toggle combat. And we'll put this in the combat category. And so what we're going to do is let's get owner and let's just run toggle combat. Okay, and then return. Okay, now let's go to our master AI. Let's run event toggle combat. Let's see, do I? Or maybe I need to recompile this. I think that's the issue. Okay, now let's try it again. Toggle combat. Okay, now it is working. And what we need to do is get the combat component. We need to check, is combat enabled? And from there we need not boolean. And then we need to set combat enabled. That way we can toggle it on and off. Okay. Now we can go back to toggle combat AN. We actually don't need this boolean anymore. We can delete all of that as well. And now let's also go to the combat player character and update this as well. Do the same thing. And we can just copy the same thing from the master AI. Okay, there we go. We have two events with the same name. Toggle combat action. Okay, this is the action. Okay, now let's see if it still works. Okay, yep, having issues as I thought. Probably having an issue, yeah, with this one, and it's calling the wrong function. Let's see if we can refresh this. Yep, okay, yeah. That is as I thought. It's gonna call the wrong function, so let's find references to this. We need to update this to toggle combat action. Okay, let's just copy that function and let's go. Yeah, we need to also run it here. Okay, I think that has it resolved, and let's compile and save. Let's try again. Well, that's closer. Oh, I remember the issue now. Let's get main weapon. Let's check is valid. If it is valid, then we toggle combat, I believe. Yes, this one has a toggle combat. We can plug that in here like this. And there we go. Okay, compile and save. Okay, that works. Guess I can toggle weapon combat. Just so we can distinguish the difference between the two. Okay, let's see if it works for the AI. Still having an issue here, the AI. Let's go back to perform action. Oh, I don't think we actually implemented anything for this yet. So we have perform action here. So let's just cut all this, delete perform action, and add that to perform combat action. And here we go. Create a local variable, get montage index, replace that one. Get random index. And let's create local variable. Okay, now let's get state tag. Okay, we also need to get action. Get action tag. Put that in here. And we need to return the duration here. There we go. Let's compile and save. And let's see what happens now. Okay, and that works. All right, there we go. Now what we can do is, let's go back to our humanoid AI. By default, let's attach the weapon mesh to the sword hip attach socket. So in our humanoid enemy, let's click the combat component. Let's select on combat toggled. And around here, it doesn't really matter where we put this. Let's get the weapon mesh. Let's attach component to component. The parent will be the mesh. Okay, and let's promote this to a variable. We'll call this one attach socket name. And the attached socket name will be the sword hip attach socket. Let's go ahead and open the mesh. Let's look for sword hip attach socket. Copy the name. We'll hip attach socket. Let's go ahead and duplicate this. And weapon and socket. And let's go back to the mesh. Let's look for weapon. Right, weapon socket. Let's copy that. Go back here. Compile and then paste that here in this value. There we go. And then we can add a select node. And the index can be is combat enabled. So if is combat enabled is true, then we use the hand socket. If it is false, then we use the attach socket. And this will be snap to target. And now we can make this instance editable. We can add this to a category, initialization, compile and save. And now let's see how it works. Yep, that works just fine. See if it works whenever the character dies. Let's see if he puts the weapon away. Okay, yep, he puts his weapon away and he goes back to his patrol. So that works really well. Okay, I think that's a good stopping point for this video. In this video, we have designed our combat behavior tree system. We have implemented our behavior service, which can update our AI behavior. We have implemented attacking and toggle combat into our behavior tree. And we have made some updates so some of the functionality that we created will work for both AI and player. In the next video, we are going to cover AI types such as mob enemies and boss enemies.